Today we're taking a look at a full secondary Republic. This is literally everything you can do to buff the secondaries on this ship, and it's one that I really wanted to try out. And I'll admit this was a part of the stream that I made some highlights on for the video yesterday, if you saw that, but I didn't include it in that highlight video because I wanted to make a dedicated video to this game. It was just that good. And yes, I do get over 300 secondary hits in this game out of a Republic, and actually pretty good damage out of it. But to start with, of course, we have to do some sniping because it is World of Warships at tier 10. So we're going to be eating a full fire from this Thunder. You don't really want to damage con a single fire, especially early game when there's a Thunder around, so we'll let it burn. It's not a big deal. Just look at how gigantic my heal is, and we'll talk probably a little bit about that later in port once I can show you the exact upgrades that I'm using. But this is a different build. I don't know if I'd recommend this build to people to use. I'm probably going to switch it up today actually just to try something else. That's the beautiful thing about the free captain respecs as well as the free demounting of modules. So you can just play around with builds. So for this entire batch, just mess around with builds on your ships and have a good time with it, because something like this probably isn't going to happen for a long time again. So, as just one more thing to look out for, there is a link on the Wargaming website, World of Warships website, where you can reset all of your commanders. You just click a button on the website, as long as you're logged in, of course, and all of your commanders will get all of their skills reset. I think this is a great thing to offer, and you should really take advantage of it because, well, there's a lot more tech tree or skill trees in the game now that every commander has one for cruisers, battleships, destroyers, CVs, and now submarines. So that's a lot to go through. So definitely take advantage of resetting that. If I remember, I'm going to put that link in the description as well. It'll take you right to the website where you can log in and do that, because there's a lot of times where people forget, and myself included. On one of my alt accounts last time I forgot, and I was stuck with a really bad captain build. So that is, yeah, something to look forward to as a nice thing this patch, along with the secondary change. Of course, when you're running a secondary build on a Republic, well, your dispersion suffers. That's how you get that 12.5 kilometers of range. So this Moskva gets to go broadside to us a couple times without taking too much damage, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is a sacrifice you have to make for this full secondary build. Something you could consider as far as the build is concerned is not running all of the range upgrades, right? If you take the upgrade for main guns, you only miss out on around 15% of the range. So you still get around 11 kilometers of range on Republic secondaries, so that's pretty good still. And you retain your main gun's accuracy, more importantly. So that's probably a better all-around build, but I wanted to go full secondaries, right? So that's what we're going to do. I am cautiously trying to push up this flank. We do know there's at least one DD in the area. There's an enemy smoke screen there. And I'm trying to stay in an area where I can at least try to support my Unicum. He's somewhat overstayed his welcome at this point. There is a Thunderer, a Kerr first. The Mosk was at least running away, but there's definitely a DD around. So if he gets spotted, he could get absolutely nuked by the entire enemy team that's there. And in fact, a Shimakaze also pops up. So they have two DDs here as well. So we might be losing our DD. We'll see how this ends up, but we have a Kerr first pushing in. And like I said at the end of yesterday's video, secondaries are at their best when people push into you. I really don't think that pushing in to activate your secondaries is a good idea. I think that's a really, really bad idea. And more often than not, it's going to get you killed, it's going to leave you frustrated, and you're probably going to want to respec into things other than secondaries. Of course, not every match you're going to get people pushing into you. So that is the bit of the trade-off there, but in this case, the Kerr first is pushing in. So we're going to get some decent damage on him. Our secondaries, of course, only pen the superstructure. They don't pen the belt armor or bow or stern. So we're relying a lot on fires, but that's what the Republic secondaries do. They light fires. 12% fire chance on the 150 mil guns, and I think on the 127, it's around 9%. And just look at how fast they fire. And of course, every once in a while you do get that accuracy, so we punch that GK for a good 18,000 damage as he goes away. something I want you to look at on the ship specifically that I think is an excellent change that I don't think I saw Wargaming talk about, which I thought was, or I think is strange, because it's really a nice quality of life thing. Just look at my secondary turrets. You'll notice it mostly on the front two turrets there, the big ones. They're pointed forward right now, which normally, if they had been firing, they would be stuck in their last used firing position, right? So it would have been directly off the right-hand side of my ship. So in this patch, I believe, I can't really remember from last patch because I didn't really use secondaries last patch, but I believe this is a change they made for this update, or if it happened before, I'm just noticing it. And I think you should know about it too. That your secondaries actually turn to their neutral state when they're not firing. So it tells you very clearly in a visual way whether your secondaries have an angle to shoot or not when somebody's in your secondary range. And you'll see that be used when I'm fighting this Thunderer here. The front two secondaries don't quite have the same turret angle as the front gun. So if I'm in a kiting position and I want to get those secondaries firing, I have to give a little more broadside than I normally would to get my front main gun turret away. It's really nice to know where that angle is, because before you didn't really know when they would stop firing, and you'd have to wait that 5 to 6 second reload time on the guns to see if they're shooting, and then you realize they're not shooting, and it's just a mess. But here's where we're going to get most of our secondary hits, by the way. A Thunderer that actually pushed in. Insane. I don't know what's going on where a Thunderer decides to push in, but I'm here for it, and I'm loving it. So the bonus, I guess, of having such long-range secondaries that only pen superstructures is that at longer ranges, the shells are basically doing plunging fire, so you're really only going to be hitting that superstructure anyway. That is one of the weaknesses, of course, secondaries at closer range against battleships and some cruisers too, is that they aim for the Citadel. That is their designated aim point, so at close range, they're just going to be hitting belt armor and doing essentially 0 damage. It has the chance to light a fire, of course, but other than that, it's basically nothing. So secondaries are actually at their best in this 10-kilometer range window, I would say. At longer ranges, you're definitely going to get more damage out of your secondaries, assuming you can bend superstructures. We'll take a look at Colombo later. There you go, you see that front turret turn, and then it turned back as soon as it got the angle again. I think it's so cool. It's just such a visual way to understand what is happening as far as the angles and damage output of the secondaries. It's really cool. An issue with these builds, of course, is that your secondary turrets die. And if you manage to make it through some of that last video, you'll know that I tried a Kremlin secondary build. Don't run a Kremlin secondary build, guys. You're gonna lose all of your secondary turrets very, very quickly. I had around 1 million potential damage, and I lost 6 out of the 8 secondary turrets, and I never actually end up getting any secondary hits in that game. So pretty disappointing result there. So taking the first slot as the auxiliary armaments mod, where you get 100% HP to the secondary and AA mounts, I think is definitely a good pick if you're trying to run a secondary build. There's a few worse feelings, but one of the worst feelings in this game is investing so much in secondaries and having them all explode before you can really get to use them. Of course, detonating and permanently destroyed main guns are some of the worst feelings in this game. They definitely go in front of the secondaries getting knocked out, but it still feels pretty bad for that permanent destruction. I'd love to see Wargaming implement something where you can use your heal or your damage control to regain some of those turrets that you lost, those auxiliary armaments, maybe your main guns, that kind of thing. Maybe it'd be cool if it reduced the amount of healing you got on the main part of your ship, right? Like, let's say you could choose if you want to heal up half of a normal heal, but regain all of your auxiliary armaments, or regain a permanently destroyed turret or torpedo tube. I don't know, just spitballing here, but it would be a cool change, I think. I think that would be really awesome and a just nice quality of life improvement. There's no way they're gonna do it, but that would be my dream, right? We're almost at 200k and around 250 secondary hits already. We've done a lot of hits on this Thunder, and if you're wondering, I am shooting HE a lot at this Batwind Thunder. At this point, I have kind of come to the realization that I've been stubborn and that shooting HE out of a battleship is not necessarily a bad thing all the time. So getting fires, getting all this good damage, consistent damage in on a bowing battleship, there is no harm in doing that. So that is what helped us kill that Thunderer so quickly. It's kind of ironic killing a Thunderer with a bunch of fire damage. So there is a gearing right next to us. We did switch our secondaries over to him. I'll show you how much damage we did at the end, but it's pretty good damage output. We of course did lose around 20% of the built-up accuracy bonus we had acquired because we switched our target, but I thought it was worth it at that point because the Thunderer was basically dead. If I'd waited until that Thunderer died, I believe, assuming we can trust what Wargaming says, their communication has not been amazing recently, or ever, really. I'm trying to think of a good time that Wargaming communicated well, but regardless, we can do a video talking about that another time. Let's keep this one positive about secondaries. And that gearing kind of got nuked by our secondaries. And this is a Republic where it doesn't get any built-in secondary accuracy bonus like the German battleships do and like the premium American secondary battleship line does, the Massachusetts, Georgia, Ohio. I consider that a secondary line of American battleships that just happens to be premium. It's unfortunate that it is a premium line that basically all of them are either impossible to get or really, really hard to get. I'd love to see them maybe do a better job of allowing people to have some of these really cool ships and not locking them behind paywalls. But finally, we get our good salvo in on this Moskva. It was only a matter of time. We get our, not quite Dev Strike, but really close. We're jumping forward here in time. The match basically is over. I got a little bit of chip damage in on this midway, and I capped C and lost some health to the CV planes, and that's about it. This was a surprise to me. I gotta say, when I played this match, I was shocked. This is easily one of my best Republic games, and it came with a full secondary meme build, and somehow that worked out. I don't really know how that happened, because I've had some pretty amazing games when you run the full reload and accuracy build. Of course, Republic well known for having insane gun power. The reload, the overmatch, the alpha damage, it is just monstrous. And of course, the shell velocity helps you delete cruisers at mid-range to long range. So I don't know how a secondary build Republic is one of my best games, but it just so happened to be. Unfortunately, no 300k. We don't quite get it there. A little unlucky on the dispersion there, but that's what you got to expect when you run the full secondary game. So there you go. An absolute ton of ribbons, and I think there's some ribbon missions for the new dockyard, so maybe a secondary build would be a good way to go to finish those. 2.8k base and 3 kills, top of the team. Very nice. Just look at that secondary damage. And that's just 57k raw secondary damage. Of course, we got fires with our secondaries. We also got fires with our main guns, so it's hard to add those together, but it's possibly 100k with secondaries combined. I'm not quite sure about that one, but with the upgrades we had, we only lost 2 of our secondaries, and just look at all that damage on that Thunderer. 36k raw and another 44 from fires. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. And of course, that gearing, we only fired 1 salvo of our main guns at him. So that 14k, well, 13,000 of that was our secondaries. It was a close range, fair enough, but and we'd already built up some accuracy, but still just goes to show you how effective these secondaries can be. So the build that we're running is, again, full secondary meme build, and I don't know if that's quite right, but this is what I've got for you. I'm going to explain some stuff that I'm going to try later as well, but as far as the ship's concerned, if you're planning on switching between HE and AP a lot, as you probably are in a Republic, and especially with ships that have lower caliber that can't overmatch 30mm, Gunfeeder is really nice to have. The other thing I'm definitely going to be trying out is Emergency Repair Specialist, combined with the Improved Repair Party. I do want to see how low I can get my healing down to. I would love to see maybe a 60-second reload or even less on the heals on a normal battleship. Of course, Ohio is an exception. But regardless, onto the tier 2 skill points, I think that Vigilance might just be the best skill point to take at tier 2 at the moment. I think it's better than Priority Target, personally, just because I don't seem to get too much use out of it these days. with situational awareness being pretty good on my end, and a defense expert and anti-submarine warfare expert might be required once subs get in the game. We'll actually see about that. Brisk, we'll talk about that in a second. IFHE, I don't think you want to take on most of these secondary builds. Fires are really useful to get with your secondaries, and I don't think you want to take that. Grease the Gears, obviously useful on a lot of the slower turret traverse ships like Yamato Shikishima, but Vigilance, you get so much more warning on the torpedoes. Of course, torpedoes hurt you massively. You can't heal their damage as easily. If you take it on the bow, it's a little easier. But regardless, you can't heal the damage as easily. And you also get this nice 7% bonus to your torpedo protection, right? So you get 44% on the Republic. It's pretty nuts. It helps a lot. And I've found that I'm taking less torpedo hits than I was before this. So very nice. And if you do, it does help you. Secondaries, of course, it's really nice to have only 7 points, I guess, required to get them longer range as well as their accuracy. I think this is cool. Probably going to be running this on a lot of different ships. I was trying it on Montana. I was trying it on a whole bunch of different battleships. So it'll be fun to do. Now onto the weird part of my build. You might think that with a secondary build, you're never going to get to 5 heals, so why would you take it? May as well take concealment as well as fire prevention. I'm actually giving up all concealment. That's why I don't think I recommend this build. It is uncomfortable to play. Oh, thank you. Very kind. It is very uncomfortable to play because 17.5 kilometer detect. But the philosophy or the thought process is I'm going to be at long range anyway if there are situations where I shouldn't be pushing in and using my secondaries. And if I have a situation where I can push in and use my secondaries, well, I'm going to be detected anyway. There's also the fact that CVs are all over the place plane spotting you. So does that detection really help me? Now, of course, the counter argument is the one that I probably believe myself is just that, well, obviously you could get closer with concealment, right? Not being detected allows you to get closer and potentially use your secondaries, especially with the Republic, Bourgogne, and Kurfürst having 12.5 kilometer range secondaries and around, well, Bourgogne 13.2 kilometer range detect and all the way up to 14-ish on the Republic. It's pretty useful as well, so it's hard to say which is better, but this is the build I was using on the majority of these ships, right? I can even show you my Kurfürst. This is the one I was playing probably a lot yesterday. And yeah, that's the build that I was running, right? It included this if I had skill points. Which one was I running that had 21? Oh yeah, Halsey has 21. There you go. There's the full build. I was actually running this on the majority of the ships that I was playing, but I don't have 21 point commanders everywhere. So unfortunately, I do have to give up Adrenaline Rush on this one, even though it's improved. So we'll see what the final build ends up with, but play around, mess around with things. I think that's so cool that you can just respec and have fun playing with builds this patch. I'd wish they would do that more often. I think it's just adds a lot of enjoyment to the game to try different things and expand the meta a little bit. Again, Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1, I think you need this on a secondary build. I really do. Your secondaries just die too soon. I'm running Engine Boost, but I mean, you really don't have to. It's just nice to have that. Basically, I think it's 4.5 minutes or maybe almost 5 minutes of speed boost. It's pretty insane. Again, secondary range. Here you still get some secondary range on aiming systems. I think it's probably just better to run this. You, of course, get down to, see, look at that, free demounting. So nice. So you can just swap like that. I didn't spend anything, and I swapped that out. It's so nice. Regardless, you get 11 kilometers with that build, and then if you swap to maybe main gun reload, right? Something like that would be a much more normal build. And then, of course, you'd want to include concealment there. But yeah, Ship's Consumable Mod 1. I've buffed this heal massively. It lasts for nearly 34 seconds, and every tick is healing me for more HP. That's how I had those gigantic beefy heals on the Republic in that game. I don't know if that's good or not, but I guess my thought process is, well, I'm going to take fire prevention so I don't have as many fires. That's great for damage reduction. But if I'm in a brawl and I have basics of survivability and I have something like damage control system, yes, I remove the fires faster from my ship. But if I'm in a brawl, I'm probably getting shot at by a lot of people with a lot of HE. And I'm sure if you've watched my streams or some of my videos, you'll have heard me complain about instant fires, and that's when your fire burns itself out on your ship, or you use your damage control and your immunity period runs out, and you just instantly get that another fire on your ship. I figure, if I'm gonna have all the fires on my ship anyway, why don't I just take extra healing? And that way I can heal back all of that really light damage, right? It's light damage that you heal back the majority of. 100% of fire damage is healable, so that's the thought process. I don't think it's sound, though. I don't think that's right, and I don't think that's the best way to play these ships, but that's what I'm trying, because you get free respecs, you get free consumable or upgrades on your ships demounted, so play around. Something I'm probably going to play around with yet, of course, is lower tier German battleships. You can get the secondary range to 8.5 kilometers on a Bayern. What? At tier 6? The Gneisenau, again, tier 7 German, right? You get 9.5 kilometer range. At these low tiers, you can possibly do that. Something else you might want to consider playing around with is Georgia with Brisk. How fast can you really go in a battleship? And of course, a meme build that I have done in the past is actually Shimakaze Gunboat. You have 9% fire chance on these guns, and if you get the reload down, you can wither people away pretty quickly. I don't know if those builds are good. Brisk on Bourgogne as well, if you have it, could be an interesting option. But seriously, guys, play around. I think this patch is going to be the patch to play if you are maybe a little disinterested in the game, feel like it's gotten a little stagnant. Try playing random battles. Mess around with builds, do funny meme builds that you haven't done since years ago because you thought, oh, I need to keep up with the meta and whatever, right? Sure, you're probably not going to do as well as if you did the meta build, but go into it and try and have some fun. And assume you're going to lose, because that way you're not going to be disappointed when you do. Yeah, that's my advice. That's my full secondary meme Republic. I had a lot of fun playing that game, and I had a lot of fun making this video. I hope we can have some enjoyment in this game before subs and CVs tear it all away. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.